Hi everyone and welcome to this video where we're going to look at the comparative mode of literary genre. So literary genre is often thought to be one of the harder of the four modes, but as you see in this video, it's probably the one with the biggest variety of possible responses. So there's actually loads there for students to work with. Don't forget to download your free notes grid from the link in the description under this video. You can use it or adapt it to suit your own note-taking or study style. So we've looked previously at cultural context and we've seen how that deals with the world of the text and the impact of social conventions upon the characters in the story. Literary genre, however, is all about how the story is told. This mode of comparison is about the nuts and bolts of presenting a story to a reader or a viewer and how best to achieve that impact. Let's look first at a couple of recent questions on this mode. So this is the paper from last year, and you can see that question 1 asks you to discuss how effective two techniques are at giving insight to the mind of a central character, while question 2 asks how techniques are used to establish mood or atmosphere. So here, what you're being asked to do is to identify how an author, playwright, or director presents their story to us in a way that, for question 1, gives us an insight into the mind of a central character, and for question 2, how that creates mood or atmosphere. So you need to be switched on here to what the author, playwright, or director is doing to be able to answer this question effectively. Well, let's look at some of the things that they can use. So firstly, characterization. How are the main characters developed? How do we learn about them? Is it through their own actions or things other characters say about them? Are any characters being used as foils? So a foil is a peripheral character created to highlight something in a central character. What about narration or narrative voice? Who's telling the story? Are they trustworthy? Is it a first-person narrator? Is it a third-person narrator? Are they omniscient? Or do they learn what's happening at the same time as the reader? Why has that particular type of narration been used? Are there flashbacks? Are there flash forwards or breaks in the narrative structure? Why are they used and what impact do they have? Music, lighting, props, and framing. These are obviously for the film and drama texts. Remember, the Playtex on your comparative study are written to be performed, not just read, so be aware of how the play is supposed to look on the stage. How is music used? How is lighting used? How does a director frame their shots? Are there any recurring motifs or ideas in the play or film? How do they begin? How do they end? You could also look at imagery and symbolism. Are there any recurring images or symbols in the text that stand for something bigger or deeper? How are they used to good effect by the author, the playwright, or the director? You could look at plot and structure. How does the text move from beginning to end? Are there any shifts in time or place or narrator or mood along the way? If there are, what is the purpose of them? How is suspense created and maintained? What happens immediately before and after key moments in the text? So these are just some of the techniques that can be found in your text. So as you can see, there's a huge amount to write about. But the key to literary genre, however, is not just to identify that a technique has been used. You must identify it and then discuss its impact on the characters or your experience of the text based on the question that you've been asked. So, for example, this is question 1 from 2018. We're being asked here how the techniques used by the author influenced how we respond to the characters. It's not enough to say, for example, that Shakespeare uses the opinion of others to tell the audience about Macbeth before we ever meet him. You need to say how that technique influences your opinion. So it needs to look more like this. Shakespeare uses an interesting technique whereby the audience learns about the character of Macbeth through the golden opinions of others, thereby creating a false impression of him as brave and noble. I felt that it made Macbeth's subsequent downfall even more shocking, as this technique had raised him up on a pedestal from the very beginning. So in this video, we've seen that literary genre is all about how stories are told, whether in a novel, on a stage, or on a screen. We've looked at some of the techniques that can be used, and it's important that you are aware of them if you plan on answering a question on this mode. And remember, the key to the comparative is critical literacy. Establish your own alternative view and keep asking, what if? Thank you for watching, and I hope that you found this useful to your study of literary genre for the comparative. In the next video, we're going to look at the mode of theme or issue. If you haven't already subscribed, then please do, and feel free to leave a comment or ask a question.